Beloved sister, you're not going to believe this. I was here at noon and I did my whole live. I thought everything was good. I was talking to you from the bottom of my heart and got through the whole thing. And then I get a message saying that none of it actually even recorded. So here I am again. Now, if this posts twice, I'm going to feel really dumb. But I still want to welcome you. I really want to get the message out to you. It's important to me that we connect. So we're going to try this again. Beloved sister, welcome to Lunch and Love Notes. This is where we refuel, reconnect, and get real in 20 minutes or less, because I know your time is valuable. I'm Christina Dixon. I serve as a Christian life and legacy coach, and I'm the founder of Breathe Life Coaching. I help Christian women confront the fear standing between you and your peace, passion, and purpose, and convert that into power to move forward with clarity, confidence, and courage. So if you're here live, welcome. Thank you for being patient. Don't expect anybody to be here live. If you're catching it on replay, please type hashtag replay in the comments so I can stop by later and say, hey girl. All right, before we dive in, I'd love to know what's been on your heart lately. If there's something you're wrestling with or wondering about, let me know. I really want these conversations to be meaningful to you because honestly, I don't want to just talk at you. I want to connect with you. So if there's a topic you'd like me to cover, drop it in the comments. Over the past couple of weeks, we've talked about setting boundaries and enforcing them with confidence. But there's something that often sneaks in afterward, and that's what we're talking about today. Self-doubt. Have you ever told someone no and then spent the rest of the day or stayed up at night replaying the conversation in your head? Maybe you declined to volunteer for one more thing at church or your kid's school, or maybe something at work, and suddenly you're wondering if people are thinking you're lazy or unhelpful. Or maybe you turned down a last-minute request from a friend and now you're stressed that she's upset with you. Or what about this? You finally spoke up for yourself in a conversation and later thought, did I say too much? Was I too harsh? What if they're mad at me? Did I overreact? What if they think I'm selfish? That's self-doubt. And it's one of fear's favorite tools. Today, we're exploring how to recognize it, challenge it, and take back your peace. Let's talk about it. Here's what I want you to tell me in the comments. When do you find yourself second-guessing your decisions the most? The Bible talks about fear 365 times. Now, some versions say that there's more, but none say that there's less than 365 times. That's one for every day of the year. Now, clearly, God knew fear would be something that we'd face daily. Why? Because the enemy knows that fear is powerful. And if the enemy can't stop you from pursuing God's plan, he'll try to convince you that you're not good enough, you're not strong enough, or you're not worthy enough to walk it out. Now, self-doubt feels so powerful because it often sounds reasonable. Most of the time, fear doesn't show up shouting. It whispers in a voice that sounds a lot like ours. And if you've spent years people-pleasing, over-explaining, or avoiding conflict, self-doubt can feel like a familiar old friend. And fear shows up in practical ways, like hesitating to send that email, dreading a tough conversation, or convincing yourself you're not capable enough to pursue that dream. It also shows up in how you interact with the people you love. Sometimes we're so afraid of being misunderstood that we avoid sharing what's really on our heart. Or we're too scared to speak up, maybe with your spouse, because you don't want to start a fight. Have you ever said yes to your child, or your friend, or your spouse, or your coworker, not because it's best for them, but because you're afraid of disappointing them? Fear doesn't just keep you from stepping into your purpose. It can hurt the relationships you care about most. And when fear whispers, "Who do you think you are?" it's not just attacking your decision, it's attacking your worth. I hope you feel comfortable enough to share with me one way you notice fear showing up in your life. Type it out. Self-doubt may feel powerful, but there are ways to challenge it. I'm going to give you 2 simple strategies that you can start using this week. The first one is called the 3-question filter. Now, before I explain it, I want to make one thing clear. Self-doubt isn't always wrong or a bad thing. It can sometimes slow us down long enough to make wise decisions. It can serve as a sort of self-imposed boundary. For example, there's a difference between the fear that says, "Don't speak up, they'll reject you," and the gentle nudge of wisdom that says, "Hang on a second, pause a moment, gather your thoughts before you respond." But you have to learn to recognize the difference. And this is something I help women walk through in coaching, helping you recognize when self-doubt is working against you and when it's actually giving you a chance to pause, reflect, and practice self-control. But when self-doubt keeps you stuck in worry, replaying conversations, or holding back out of fear, that's when you know it's crossed the line. So this filter will help you tell the difference. When self-doubt starts whispering, ask yourself, 1, is this true? 2, is this helpful? And 3, whose voice is this? It's either going to be God's or fear. This simple filter keeps you from spiraling into what ifs and helps you separate truth from fear's lies. You know how fear thrives on what ifs. What if I mess up? What if I say the wrong thing? What if they're upset with me? But here's the thing. For every fear-based what if, there's a truth-based what if that you can hold on to instead. I actually have tattooed on my foot the words what if, because for most of my life, what ifs were one direction. It was always bad. Whatever came after what if was always bad. Until I learned that what ifs can be bidirectional. So for example, what if I say the wrong thing? What if God gives me the right words at the right time? But what if I mess up? What if God uses my mistakes for something good? Well, what if they're upset with me? What if setting this boundary actually strengthens our relationship in the long run? You see, the enemy thrives on what if thinking, feeding you fear scenarios that leave you feeling powerless. One of my favorite parts of the Bible is when a scene is set and all looks lost, and then 2 little words change everything. But God. So an easy formula I use to remember is what if plus but God equals even if. God's truth turns those what ifs into reminders of his power, love, and faithfulness. The second skill, name it and neutralize it. Now, self-doubt doesn't just attack your decisions, it attacks your worth. And it thrives in the dark. Luke 8:17 says, "For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light." God's truth is that light, the one that reveals the lies of fear for what they really are. So when we bring our fears into his light, they lose their grip. It's kind of like calling out your internal bully. Once you see it, it loses its power. When you notice those thoughts creeping in, say to yourself, "Oh, that's just my fear," or my darkness, whatever you want to label it. That's just my fear talking again. For example, if you hear, "Ooh, if you don't handle this yourself, everything's going to fall apart," that's fear of losing control. And it's whispering that you must manage everything on your own. Well, if this isn't perfect, it's not good enough. That's fear of imperfection, telling you that you'll never measure up. If I say no, they'll be upset. That's fear of rejection, making you believe that your boundaries will push people away. How about I can't let anyone know I'm struggling? I'm a lot guilty of that one. It's fear of vulnerability. It's convincing you that asking for help is weakness. Well, I should be able to handle this alone. That's fear of inadequacy, making you believe you're failing if you can't carry it all. This one's a big one for me. If I don't stay busy, I'm being lazy. Yeah, that's fear of worthlessness, telling me that my value is tied to my productivity. Any of these sound familiar to you? If you're feeling stuck in self-doubt, I want you to hear this. You are stronger than you think. God has brought you through some hard things before, and he'll do it again. His perfect love casts out fear. 1 John 4:18. So when fear whispers, "You're going to fail," "You're not enough," "You're too much," his love answers back, "You are held, you are chosen, and you are deeply loved. You are not an accident, and your worth isn't tied to how perfectly you handle every situation." You're going to hear me say that over and over and over. Your value comes from who God says you are. Fear may show up as worry that keeps you awake at night, overthinking that paralyzes you, or anxiety that feels like that constant knot in your stomach. But God's love is your peace in the storm, your steady ground when you feel shaky, and your comfort when you feel overwhelmed. And believe me, self-doubt can feel overwhelming, but you don't have to stay stuck in it. Self-doubt can guide you toward wise decisions, or it can paralyze you with anxiety. And learning to recognize fear's lies and push back with truth is something I guide my coaching clients through in my Rooted and Rising program. If this is something you'd like to explore deeper, if you're tired of second guessing yourself and ready to stand firm in your worth, I'd love to connect with you, and I would be honored to walk that journey with you. I'm opening the next cohort April 7th, and spaces are limited. So reach out to me. Before I close in prayer, I want to ask you one more question. What would it look like for you to believe God's truth about your worth this week? I encourage you to bring it from the darkness into the light. Tell me in the comments. Don't let fear of vulnerability stop you. because someone else may need to hear it too. Lord, thank you for reminding us that our worth is found in you. When self-doubt whispers that we are not enough, remind my sister that that's a lie. Give her the courage to trust you, the wisdom to recognize fear's lies, and the strength to hold on to your truth. In Jesus' name, amen. Next week, we're going to talk a little bit about what it looks like to break free from fear's grip, especially when it shows up in your relationships, your decisions, and your identity. We're also going to recap the month, and I'm going to connect for you why there's been so much emphasis on boundaries, because part of my goal is to help you find your peace, your passion, your purpose by converting your fear into power. And in order to have peace, we have to know how to set boundaries. I don't think you're going to want to miss it. So I'll see you next Monday at noon. Until then, you are seen, you are known, and you are loved. Blessings.